Form.
We are going live, guys.
All right, we're live. All right, then I'm going to start. All right.
What are the rules that you'd like?
Yeah. All right. So the debate motion is resolved. This
Wait 1
house.
second, guys. Welcome to the Mestari versus Ajab the Liar debate here on DDO Google Hangouts. We are debating the resolution that Ayn
This
Rand's
house. This house
resolved
will,
Ayn Rand's ethical theory is sound. Please don't talk
this
over me.
house-
That's very rude. I would like politeness
house
and debate
says that-
and cordiality.
this house
Now,
says that
go ahead. Here's your turn.
Ethical. I started first. Ethical theory is sound with Timothy as proposition. I am opposition. The order of the debate is such that we will get 6-minute speeches for our starting rounds. So Timothy will start with a 6-minute speech. I will not ask him any questions in the first or the last minute. Otherwise, I or him can write it in the chat that I can write in the chat or he can write in the chat point of inquiry. And I am allowed to raise 2 points of inquiries, and he can choose to accept them or to deny them. All right? And he can raise 2 points of inquiries. I can choose to accept them or deny them. All right? The moderator for this debate is Stephen, who you know as Thet the Mighty. After a 6-minute speech, we will have a 4-minute rebuttal speech. All right? And then we will have a 3-minute conclusion. All right?
A 4-minute rebuttal and a 3-minute conclusion?
Yeah, yeah.
Will there be cross-examination periods?
No. You will only be allowed to ask point of inquiries in.
Are you afraid that I'll ask you questions that I'll destroy your case?
Let
No,
there
you'll
be.
be allowed to ask, for cross-examination, you'll be allowed to ask 2 points of inquiries in each speech.
That's during the speech. I'm talking about after the speech, a period of time dedicated to asking
Do
questions.
3 minutes cross-act.
All right. Wait. I need to go get my charger. My battery's about to die. Hold on. Oh Lord.
He's running to his mother for more arguments, yet again. By the way, guys, before we got to this live hangout, he went to his mother for arguments twice already in the last hangout.
Come on, laptop, survive.
This is the 3rd time it's happened.
Where's my charger?
By the way, GCL and Dennis, both Ajab and I are having a live debate on the resolution resolved. Ayn Rand's ethical theory is sound. I am the proposition in this debate, and he is the contender. This will be posted on DDO for everyone to see.
All right. Then we can have a cross-examination round before the rebuttal speech. Wait, let me see if my laptop's charging. All right, it's charging. Let me get some
I
water.
believe that after my case, you should have 3 minutes to cross-examine me. After your case, I should have 3 minutes to cross-examine you. And after the rebuttal speeches, we have 4 minutes where we can both question each other, and then we have the final speech.
All right. Before we begin, wait. Why isn't my laptop charging? This will come.
Are you really going to use technical error as an excuse to get out of the debate now that we're recording?
Do something. Wait. Is the electricity gone?
You've been stalling the entire night, Ajab. We are all ready to begin.
Guys, if I leave, I'll be back in 10 seconds, alright? I just need to understand why my laptop isn't charging. Alright,
And-
it's charged.
Are you ready?
Wait, just 1 sec.
Wilted, the latecomer, Ajab and I are having a live debate on the resolution resolved. Ayn Rand's ethical theory is sound. I am affirming the resolution and he is negating. Enjoy the show. Right now, he is currently looking for a way to get out of the debate through technical error, and we're waiting for him to come back.
I'm back actually. I just needed to grab my
Welcome back
charger.
to the show. How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. I propose that we have 5 minutes in the beginning to write down my argument.
You've had the last hour to prepare your arguments. Are you still trying to stall?
No, I've had the last hour trying to debate with you when you keep interrupting me after every 1 second.
And even so, you decided all the arguments you made in the last hour aren't good enough, so you want new arguments. Just let's be clear on this.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
we haven't been debating for an hour.
So you would like 5 minutes for new arguments? Let's go for it. We will use 5 minutes.
20 minutes? 5 minutes prep time. It's 11:01. Everyone, please be silent for the next 5 minutes.
As we pray for the soldiers who have fallen in combat, we would like a moment of silence. Thank you. Ajab, by the way, if you didn't know, this is an American thing. We pay tribute to the dead who have fallen in combat.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and
If
forgive
you
us our
keep talking,
trespasses, as we
keep talking.
forgive those
Do
who
not
trespass
disrespect our
against us.
religion, Ajab. Do not disrespect our religion.
I'm not disrespecting your religion.
Just because
And
you're
lead
a
us not,
heretic doesn't mean you have to disrespect us.
and lead us
We all
not,
respect everyone equally.
and
Let
lead us,
Stephen finish.
I'm
and lead,
turning off my speaker volume. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thank you. Pray for our soldiers. And God bless America.
Only America. Well, I don't need 5 minutes to prepare my argument, so while I'll give that time to Ajab so that he can look up on Google some new arguments against Ayn Rand, I will discuss with the audience what they think so far. Is there any questions from the audience that they would like to be read to the broader audience at home that will be watching the live recording? Yes, Joey, what is your question? And no, I will not marry you. Are there any other questions? Please doesn't make me any more likely. Steven, you... Oh, Bossy. Okay, why am I so perfect? I was born that way. Questions concerning anything, Marie? How I'm winning this debate right now, how Ajab's trying to find reasons not to debate me, your general thoughts on the weather, anything. Steven, I know you've got something on your mind. Speak up. Boss, you have another question? Why do you think Ajab is so fearful of the truth? Well, I think that most people don't like to be wrong. It's naturally that we're egotistical. That's basically part of Ayn Rand's argument. We always value ourselves over others. And him conceding that he's wrong is giving away that power that he has invested in himself, and he's placing that on someone else. And he's concerned about doing that because he's an objectivist. He just doesn't know it. He's a closet objectivist. And he can't admit it. Joey, what do I think of the weather? It's been pretty terrible lately in Florida. Steven, is it immoral to do that to someone other than Ayn Rand? Yeah, I would say so. Dennis, what is my username on DDO? Both Mestari and Lucky Luciano. DDO is not able to handle me on just one username. I am too awesome. Bossy, the seasons in the northern hemisphere are opposite those of the southern hemisphere, right? So winter in the US is summer below the equator. Does that mean that as soon as you go over the equator, the weather instantly changes to the opposite of that on the original side of the equator? I believe you actually answered your own question in your preface. Joey, why is John Maynard Keynes superior to Friedrich Hayek? Because his name is longer. Any other questions? Okay, I'll expand upon the logic of that last one while I wait for more questions to arise. See, his name being longer shows that he has more wisdom, that he has more knowledge accumulated over the duration of his name. So obviously he's going to be smarter and therefore superior to Friedrich Hayek. Why do I seem hyper? I'm just eager to beat Ajab and show him that he's wrong. I am against all heretics and glory to God for my wins. I will defend what is right. Joey, is that a question? Or just an explanation? Annie, do I think Ajab shit his pants? Well, he actually told us that he took off his clothes out of fear. Because he was sweating too profusely, he did not want to permanently ruin them.
Or I said I want to take off my shirt simply because...
Ajab, we know you want to take off your shirt, but that's a human rights violation for someone to see that. Please do not recommend doing it again, or I will have to recommend you to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, for severe and unrelentless prosecution.
Or if you insult me one more time, I don't care if this goes on live and you call me a coward.
I'm giving you all the time that you need to prepare. It's been over 5 minutes.
I don't need any more time, but I will ask you that you will not insult me in any way. All
I do not
right.
believe that I've insulted you yet. Even Annie is saying in the audience that I have not insulted you yet. I'm sorry if you feel that way.
Not
I will.
the
I will try to tone myself down. I am sorry if you feel insulted. Am I able
all
to
right.
begin my case now?
With that, Stephen, you can recognize Timothy. Just as a reminder, 6 minutes starting speech, and I can ask two POIs in the from the second minute to the fourth minute. He can either deny the POI or accept it. After that, there is a 2 minutes cross examination.
3 minutes. We agreed on 3 minutes.
3 minutes cross examination. After which there will only be a 4 minutes verbal rebuttal. Right? All right.
And then there is a 4-minute period where both of us can question one another simultaneously. And then there's our 2-minute closing statements.
I will not do that simply because you're very rude when you question. You interrupt me all the time, and you are very, very
You get a
annoying.
question, and then I get a question. We'll like go back and forth. And if I'm ever out of my bounds, Steven can stop me. He'll be moderating.
I can do that. I will accept that.
Okay, and then we'll have our 2-minute final speech, and we're done.
No, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, Steven, can
Okay, just wait till if Stephen, are you timing?
Yes.
Okay,
all right,
Stephen.
Stephen, then just recognize Timothy and start the time from that time, right?
Steven is the moderator. We don't need anyone to tell him how to do his job.
I can recommend something. Please be
All right,
quiet.
fair enough. Fair
All
enough.
right, please,
I said.
please repeat the motion once more in your opening speech.
All right, Steven, is it okay if I speak?
Yep.
All right, I will let you know that I am not timing myself because I'm fully and passionately involved in this debate. If you could give me time warnings in the chat box when I have 5 minutes remaining, 4 minutes remaining, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and 1 minute, and 30 seconds, I would be much appreciative. Thank you. Are all members of the audience ready for me to begin speaking? Okay, let's go. Objectivism is basically the best theory ever. It's inherently true. It's actually an a priori fact. You see, if anyone thinks about what they care about the most, it's themselves. People don't just give their lives for others, and if they do give their lives for others, it's because that person living brings them happiness, themselves, not because of the other person's happiness. So in all situations where anyone would ever prefer death, they prefer someone else's death over their own, unless it's for a selfish reason. So Ajab's argument is going to be coming through Kant, where he argues that we have to use reason to state that we have to treat all life as equally valuable if we're to hold our own as valuable at all. And I think that's completely untrue. Because if I hold someone else's life to equal value as mine, that means that if there's not enough food to feed 2 people, and there's only enough to feed 1 person, I would have to equally share my food with that person, in which case we both die. And even if you're utilitarian, you know that sucks ass, and no one likes utilitarianism. So what we can see is I should look at myself first, because if I live, then hey, I'm alive. I'm not dead. And of course, being alive is always better than being dead. So the Kant argument that he's going to inevitably bring up is full of crap. Just don't worry about that at all. Now, let's look at why we do things in life. Why do you go through the rat race of life and try to get a good job, get your promotions, get more money, more vacation hours, all that stuff? Because it makes you happier. If you get more money, money buys happiness. You can buy the things that make you happy. You can buy the things that you desire. That's why we want money. It's for us, not for anyone else. And now Ajab obviously is going to have the counterpoint that people like Bill Gates will give money to other people. Now, that's because they are selfish individuals who only care about their own self-image. They don't care about the people they're giving money to. What they care about is that their name is on that money, that other people are going to see that and think they're a great and glorious person. Because let me tell you this right now, Bill Gates is the Antichrist. He wants everyone to follow him because then he can overthrow the world government because he wants to rule. He's selfish. He needs supporters in order to do this. Like, if he just lets other people hate him because he hoards his own money, then he's not going to get what he wants in the end. So it may seem selfless. Like, the action itself may seem selfless. But the end is definitely a selfish, objectivist ethical reasoning. A point of inquiry. Do you have proof of Bill Gates' intent? What about ANAON givers? Anonymous? I don't think they're truly anonymous. I think that's actually a conspiracy theory. Anonymity doesn't actually exist. Whenever someone anonymously gave to an organization, that's the organization donating to itself in order to encourage other people to donate to them. You see, it's not because people actually gave out the goodness of their hearts, but because they think that if a lot of people have donated to them in the past, it will encourage others to do the same. You have another question, Ajab?
No, keep going. I'll ask if I have one.
Great. So objectivism is pretty awesome. I think we've all established that. Now, let me preempt a few other things that Ajab is going to say. Now, first of all, let's make it very clear. He's never actually read anything written by Ayn Rand, except for one essay. And before we actually got to his lying hangout, he stated that because Ayn Rand wrote an essay, she was full of crap and is an idiot. There are plenty of other philosophers that wrote essays. In fact, the Kant that Ajab loves so much, or is his name pronounced Kant? I can't tell. Kant, 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 Kant. Kind of sounds like cunt. The cunt that he loves so much wrote an essay, and that would make him, but the same logic he uses to prosecute the one and the true Ayn Rand, prosecutes the philosopher he would love to support as well. And furthermore, there is something we like to call here in America called a foundation, in which we support someone. We have the Ayn Rand Foundation, and this is in support of her teachings. We wouldn't make a foundation for someone if what they were saying wasn't true. It doesn't make sense. Why would you make a foundation for a liar? So us making this foundation and people submitting money to it in order to further her beliefs is implicit acceptance that everything she says is true. Is all happiness the ultimate good for one? That question is not grammatically correct, so I don't know that I can answer it. Would you like to rephrase your grammar? I know that English is a very confusing language for me too. Actually, that just sounds rude. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize for that. If you want to rephrase, I will answer. Is one summum bonum the happiness for... What is summum bonum? The highest good. If you mean the happiness of one is like the happiness of themselves, then yeah, like whatever brings the most happiness is whatever brings the most happiness to yourself. That's tautologically true. You basically just affirmed the resolution right there. Thank you for accepting the affirmation of this debate. I will take that as a concession unless he wants to get up and say that he didn't concede, and that's the end of my speech. We can begin our cross-examination period as soon as Stephen is ready, and Ajab as well.
All right.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You said that it is a priori. It is inherently true. Now, a priori means something which is assured by intuition or something which does not need experiment testing.
No,
really
a priori means proper. It means it's proper. It's Latin for proper.
Yes,
A in
but
Latin is to be, and priori in Latin is proper, to be proper.
You're not speaking Latin, you're speaking English, and in English the term
I was using a Latin term.
a priori is taken after the 16th century to refer to knowledge which is true, and you even say that it is inherently true, therefore it is a priori. And you never gave an argument why this a priori is found in the very, since a priori is the innate idea, so why is objectivism an innate idea?
First of all, I don't appreciate you misinterpreting me. I know how I use my own words. I know that I use a priori as a Latin term. I know for a fact that I'm not using the definition that you would like to use because I'm the one that used it. Anyway, as I was saying, a priori, in the way that you're using it, and inherent are not necessarily the same. And that I'm saying that it's very, very obvious, like what I'm saying with inherent. Like, the reason anyone does anything is for themselves, correct? Can you name any situation where someone would do something and it's not self-motivated?
It's your cross-examination, not mine.
So basically you're saying you don't have any refutations to that point. That's my argument. I'm offering you the opportunity to expand a point right here.
In your speech, you said that no one likes utilitarianism. Is that your only argument against utilitarianism?
Unless you're going to defend utilitarianism, in which case I'll provide rebuttals during my rebuttal round, where rebuttals are supposed to be.
You made the positive argument that no one likes utilitarianism, therefore that is a positive statement and you need to prove it.
Do you have anyone who actually likes util? Do you know anyone who does?
That is besides the point. And yes, I know people. Francis
Are you going to defend util? Are you defending util? Yes or no?
Francis Bullish, a
Are you
prominent member
defending?
of debate.org, is a utilitarianism. Now, is it
He just texted me because he's viewing from home, and he told me that he was lying when he said that.
all right? Do you realize there's a difference between that which is and that which ought to be?
Yes, I do.
All right, and do you realize that most of your arguments were based on that which is, not on that which ought to be?
I do not agree. I believe every one of my arguments portrays what ought to be.
All right, so many people give anonymous donations. Can you clarify something more regarding that? Why do people give anonymous donations?
They don't. I said in my speech, organizations give anonymous donations to themselves in order to prompt other people to donate to them. It's self-motivated.
All right, thank you. I will request the moderator to give me 1 minute to ready my speech, if I'm allowed that.
We did not agree on that.
There is a courtesy 30 seconds given to debaters to ready their speech.
We did not agree on that before the
At this
debate.
point, it's already been 30 seconds.
What?
Steven is demanding you start now.
I'll give you 15 seconds.
All right,
I will
thank you.
allow that.
All right, you can recognize me anytime you want now.
Alright, start.
All right, there is one thing which is very important in this debate, the burden of proof. Now, the burden of proof in this resolution lies with the proposition. That means Timothy has to show that objectivism is either a rational theory, as in that it bases itself on reason, or that it is a better theory or more rational comparatively to other theories. Now, this is very important, and I ask you to keep this in mind, because most of Tim's arguments were either preemptive or were statements and ad hominem statements at that, other than proper arguments argumented in a proper way. Now, realizing that, we should come to the first point. I think this is inherently the most major point, right? That happiness equals goodness. Now, I think the best way to argue this is ab absurdo, when I argue that when you say happiness equals goodness, and Timothy said happiness equals goodness, what that means is that if a pedophile gets happiness out of pedophilia, then he should be pedophilia. He should commit to pedophilia. If a psychopath gets happiness out of
POI.
if a psychopath gets I will take it later. If a psychopath gets happiness out of killing, then he should, according to objectivism, go out and kill people. Now, why am I using Latin? Well, a priori is a term used in English, and a priori, if you would know, from Hume's time, or even before that, all the way to Leibniz, who wrote in Latin his essays, it means that a priori means that from the former, right? From pure intuition. Now that's, and all right, so happiness equals to goodness means pedophilia is good. It means psychopathy is good, sociopathy is good, and all of these things are good, right? Now, firstly. Secondly, let's consider a situation. There is one man, and on the other side there are 100 people. Who should give their life morally? Or let's commit more than that. If there is one man, on the other side there is the entire human race. Objectivism would state it would be immoral for that one man to kill the entire human race just so he could survive by himself, something which is absolutely absurd. Now, other than that, I need to clarify one very important point. That which is not that which ought, right? So morality refers to that which ought to be, that which ought to happen, and all of Timothy's arguments were that which are happening. Now let's recognize what ought to happen. And I think atheists bring this up the best, seeing how Ayn Rand was herself an atheist. Well, if you consider it that way, then you should be good for goodness' sake, and that is perfectly a normal thing. And this is definitely distracting the speaker. Now, moving on, what we need to realize is that we cannot treat people as means to an end. We must treat people as ends in themselves. And when we treat people as ends in themselves, we understand that we would like that to happen to us, and since that follows the golden rule, that is what should be. Now, my opponent gives a lot of preemptive arguments, but I remember you that he has the burden of proof. The burden of proof is on him to prove his statements, and he made a number of statements. He said that objectivism is inherently true, something he never proved. He said that reason is inherently selfish, something he never proved. Now, understand this. Humans inherently want to do good, and humans do good. Inherently, humans have a want to do goodness, and that goodness is beyond their want to do badness. And another thing, objectivism goes against science. Now, I have a book, its name is The Anatomy of Violence by Professor Adrian Rain, and it's a debate, and it's in a book about genetics. Now, understand this. If you were on one side of a bus and there were other people on the other side of the bus, you would scientifically, genetically want to save their life for the simple reason that you are inherently programmed to carry on the human race. Your primary goal is to carry on the human race. Now, you will realize that there are 100 people on that side, and you're alone on this side. You will want to sacrifice yourself to them, especially if they're genetically related to you. You will want to do that, which would mean that your life is not the ultimate worth. And objectivism is very clear on this point, because objectivism, and if I'm allowed to quote Miss Ayn Rand in her The Virtue of Selfishness, one must believe in themselves beyond all others, and that is what reason would allow. For who can one love more than oneself? And oneself is the most important of all. And thus this is the truth. Also, Miss Rind is a profoundly poor writer. To say that her plots are absurdly tendentious, her characters no more than wooden puppets, and her diction utterly without grace or beauty, is to give no real idea to the quality of her novels. They are completely bad from conception to expression, and that is what. And with that, I would like to end this debate. Thank you.
I am ready for cross-examination if you will allow it, Stephen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me scroll up on my flow and find my first questions. Okay, so let's talk about the trolley problem. Why would the one person ever be motivated to save the rest of the human race?
Simply because they have a genetic code which asks them, which requires them to further the human race at all costs.
Okay, so you said that with like saving people from a bus, right? And you said specifically after that, specifically or especially if they are genetically related to you, and I quote. So,
especially.
Yeah, especially if they are genetically related to you. Now, I had actually mentioned that in my opening speech, how a lot of times when we do what is perceived as a good thing for another person, such as giving our life to save someone else, is because we don't want.
You're giving a positive argument. This is cross-examination. You're supposed to ask questions.
But I'm prefacing my argument so that I can ask you a question accurately.
No, you just asked me the questions.
Did you not respond to that argument in my case?
Yeah, I did, and I said that
Where?
it's necessary for other people too, right? So that would happen even if they're not genetically related.
So I'm going to preface my argument. If Stephen doesn't allow it, then he doesn't allow it. But
stronger if it is genetically related.
This is my cross-examination. This is my cross-examination. Stephen, please intervene.
And I'm answering one of your questions. I'm answering one of your questions.
Please intervene. This is my cross-examination. Stephen, please intervene. Stephen just told you to stop.
Speaker has the floor.
The moderator has told you to stop. The moderator has told you to stop.
The moderator did not tell me to stop. The moderator has been silent.
Let him ask questions.
Stephen, can I ask questions?
Yes.
Thank you.
See, if you mute me again, I will leave.
Stephen just said, are you running away? Stephen just said I can ask questions.
Ask a question. Don't give a speech.
Stephen just said I can ask a question. If Stephen thinks whatever are you going to let me talk?
Sure, ask a question.
Stephen, can I refresh my cross-examination time? Because he's been talking over me the entire period.
30 seconds.
How much?
30.
Okay, great. If you feel what I'm doing is wrong, Stephen, feel free to intervene. Up until that point, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to hope that Ajab will respect that. Now, I made the argument that when people do things for other people, it's because they don't want the pain of losing that person. They're concerned about themselves because they have this, like, yes, it is a biological relationship they have with other people, but they value that relationship because of the impact that it has on themselves. Did you directly refute that warrant in your speech, Ajab? Yes or no answer only, please.
Yes.
Where? What was the exact argument?
My exact argument was that we even help people who are not genetically related to ourselves, and that is not to make us feel good about
Okay.
ourselves. That
Okay.
is not.
Okay, that's acceptable. All right, and you said after the fact that you said we would save people, especially if they're genetically related. Why is it especially if they're genetically related? Why
Yeah.
are those more valuable than others? Would it not be because they mean more to us as an individual? Under your theory, wouldn't they all, like, wouldn't we want to respect everyone and save everyone equally?
Can I talk now?
Yes, yes.
All right. Now understand this. Objectivism is very clear. Objectivism doesn't go so far. Objectivism says one particular thing, right? That happiness is the ultimate virtue, and happiness is what reason should grant. And happiness is granted by one thing alone, and that is caring for yourself beyond everything, right? And
That's not answering my question. Under your
and
theory, why
stop
would...
interrupting.
All right, let me clarify my question because I guess that wasn't clear.
All right, because
Under,
there are 30 seconds left, so you're gonna use that time. All right, go.
are you going to let me speak? Steven, he's using my time up again. Can I have an extra 15 seconds?
It's my time, Stephen. I'm the person on the floor. The person on the floor has the time. It is his quorum.
Steven, he is soaking up my time. He's not letting me
Oh.
use my cross-examination. I find this very rude. Thank you. Okay, so, again, your theory would posit that we need to treat and respect everyone equally. You specifically said that we especially would want to say people genetically related to us. Is that not a contradiction? Yes or no?
It is not a contradiction.
Okay. I am ready for my speech, Steven. I have 4 minutes, correct? Okay. Same thing as last time, just give me time signals.
Okay. Go.
Okay, very clearly, we're going to start where we left off in cross-examination. He said specifically, and he did not deny that this was his argument in cross-examination, that under his theory, we should value all lives equally. Now, he also did not argue against the fact that we do, in fact, want to save people genetically related to us over those who are not, because that's implied by saying especially those. It applies that we elevate those to a higher position than others, which means inherently we are not respecting everyone equally. So right there, he is contradicting his own ethical theory. And now I'm going to provide the reasoning that he failed to as to why we are genetically predispositioned to save those who we are related to, especially above others. Now, this is his argument. I'm just further clarifying it because he chose not to. Is because we have a vested interest in them being okay because they bring us happiness. This is entirely selfish. Their safety allows them to continue to feed us and funnel that happiness into our lives. And that's the reason why we would save them over a complete stranger, because this complete stranger brings us much less happiness than someone you've lived your entire life with, like a spouse or a father or a brother or a sister, or a mother for that sake. So this is the warrant behind his argument that he chose not to give. Now, he's saying this is not a contradiction. This clearly shows you he does not understand the logic that he is using. It's very clear. The two ideas contradict each other. He states, these people are not equal, but we should treat everyone equally. So, if he's not using logic in this debate, then we shouldn't listen to anything he says. Everything's basically unwarranted in his case. He's just throwing random ideas out there. Now, let me go back to my flow. Where is my flow? Trolley problem. Yeah. So, thank you, audience, for bringing me my flow. He talks about how my arguments are preemptive, and he doesn't respond to them. They're preemptive because I know what he's going to say. I know what the objections to Ayn Rand are because I know what Ayn Rand says. So he just concedes my arguments in my first speech by not responding to them. They were not ad hominem, and if they were, he needs to say how they are. Now, he also talks about how everything must be posited by reason. And I notice his vocabulary here. his grammar by reason. Reason cannot posit anything because reason is an abstract idea. Reason doesn't think for you. Reason doesn't tell you do this or that. That's your mind. Your mind uses reason. Reason doesn't use your mind. So clearly he doesn't understand how mental processes work or the order of operations within the brain. So he doesn't really know what he's talking about when he mentions reason. Also, he argues against me using Latin, and he used Latin in his own speech. That's very rude, and you should deduct conduct for that point. Now, at the very end of the speech, he starts ad hominem attacks against Ayn Rand. Remember earlier, he said my arguments were ad hominem, but he never said how they were. Now, I'm going to show you how his works. He talks about how Ayn Rand, in his opinion, is a terrible writer, and how the characters are wooden puppets, and the diction is without grace or beauty. Now, he doesn't have actual arguments against Ayn Rand, and that's why he's saying this, because he wants to attack her as a person. That's like saying Heidegger arguments don't have value because he was a Nazi. It simply isn't true, and it isn't a good argument. The fact that he has to attack her as a person and as an author, rather than attacking her arguments for the value that they have, implicitly concedes that he does not have warranted reasons to reject the objectivism as an ethical theory. If he did, he would use those arguments instead of directly attacking Ayn Rand. And with that, I urge you an affirmative ballot.
Alright, Ajab, you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, go.
Alright, I just want to start out with this article, which actually shows what a priori means in Latin. And a priori means in Latin from the former. And what it was used in Latin historically from the beginning of Latin, from 1108, was that a priori means that in, firstly, it's the first minute you're not allowed to ask a POI. Secondly, what it means is an innate idea. It means an innate idea. It does not mean that that it is automatically true. So we know that my opponent does not know Latin. That is the first thing. Now, my opponent talks a lot about my speech, but what he forgets is to talk about his own speech, where he mentions that happiness is the ultimate form of all virtue. Now, when he says that happiness is the ultimate form of all virtue, he fails to once tackle my argument that pedophilia grants people happiness, therefore pedophilia is moral. He says that happiness is the form of all virtue. Then I say that killing people is a form of happiness for some people. Therefore, killing people should fundamentally result in morality, and that is absolutely absurd. So you mean to tell me that pedophilia, that child raping, as long as it brings people happiness, is a moral thing to do? Because that is what ethical system of objectivism says, that if you're doing something which makes you happy, which makes you the highest entity, then you are by nature being a person who is doing moral actions, and that is ultimately absurd. And that begs another thing, right? A subjective ethics, another thing which my opponent does not talk about. And yes, I did quote Wikipedia. Now, my opponent talks about my genetic arguments, right? Well, what you need to realize is that, what objectivism states is, and I actually quoted it, that we are the highest persons, right? We are the highest person, and we do everything out of a selfish interest. Now, my opponent cannot necessarily show that we do so from a selfish interest. Yes, we do so from a genetic related background, but studies actually show, and I can, in The Anatomy of Violence by Adrian Rain, page number 21, you can actually check this, that we would first save people who we have had more contact with, even if we don't like them, than people we have not had contact with, right? So I would necessarily save Annie from dying, even though I don't like her as much, perhaps, then I would save, let's say, someone I don't know as well, let's say Dennis, right? So I would let Dennis die over Annie, right? So understanding that, let's move forward. Now, my opponent actually states Kant as in Kant, and that I find offensive because I value Kant quite a bit, and he knows that it's Kant, right? Seeing how he's so linguistically perfect. Another positive argument that he makes, please don't use abuses, is that anonymous donations are given by the same company. Now, this is something that he has not once proven. Now, when he states that anonymous donations are given by the same company, he's making an absolute flaw. I mean, I can speak from personal experience that people give anonymous donations without them being for the same company that they're working in. That is absolutely idiocy. Now, understanding that, we understand again that his entire case was based on that which is and not which ought to be, right? So he says that since humans are people, since the majority of humans do selfish things should be moral, and that which is that which ought, and that is a logical fallacy as pointed out by Hume. Can I complete my sentence? Can I complete my sentence? Right?
Yeah.
All right. So understanding that which ought to be, we understand that comes from reason. And in my last speech, I will actually talk about the most stupidest thing I've ever heard, that reason is an abstract idea. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have a 3-minute period to question each other.
Yep.
No, not now. Not now. That's only after the first speech. Now you have
No,
a
no,
two.
it was after the second speech.
Yeah, it was
All
after
right.
the second. No, this is where we both question one another at the same time, and that moderates.
It's just
Yeah.
each person gets a question. and
Unless you
then-
don't want to do it now, that's fine.
No, I'm fine with it. You can ask the first question. Your proposition.
No, I'll let you have it. It's okay.
All right.
Your
Go.
proposition.
Okay, so why do you use ad hominem arguments in your case?
I don't. Why do you use ad hominem?
Did you or did you not say my arguments were absolute idiocy?
I did, but I didn't say that.
Is
because
that not ad hominem?
No, it's not, because ad hominem is a fallacy where I say that because you gave the arguments and you're an idiot, therefore the arguments are invalid.
But
I
you just said
that
it right
the
now.
arguments
You
are
just said it.
invalid, and you gave them, therefore it was idiocy. There's
Okay, well, you
Oh,
attacked
Ajab.
Ayn Rand in the
Ajab's
previous
question.
speech. Go ahead.
Timothy, this is the second question. Is it my question now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Since pedophilia brings a person happiness, is pedophilia moral?
For that person, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, my question. You said at the beginning of your first speech that Ayn Rand was a terrible author and she had terrible substance, and therefore we should not use her arguments. Is that not the definition of Ayn Rand or of ad hominem that you provided?
I didn't say because her books are terrible that we should not study them. I never said that we should not study them. I said that her books are terrible, period. Is it my question now?
No, no. All right, go ahead.
All right. You talk about of that which is, right? So the majority of the majority of humans are selfish, right? Do you think that that which is that automatically warrants that which ought to be? So since the majority of humans do selfish deeds, therefore that is that which ought to be. And if you do say this, did you in your speech ever prove that that which is that which ought?
Okay, so I'm going to be Pluto here, and I'm going to answer your question with a question. But first, I'm going to preface it. You made the argument that we are biologically inclined to save other people. That's genetics, okay? So my question is, because is that what ought to be? Do we ought
Not
to follow genetics?
Not
But
necessarily.
Is that what you defend?
All right. So, do you agree that your entire case goes to flop, and only one point of mine goes to flop? Because I have other arguments too. While your entire argument bases itself on your point that that which is that which ought.
No, I don't agree. What I'm saying here is that you can see that as true. You made that argument, so obviously you believe it. Obviously you
What?
believe genetics are how it ought to be. That's
Not
the argument you
necessarily.
made. So you're saying
Not-
you made an argument you believe to be wrong? And how do we know the
No.
rest of your arguments aren't wrong too?
Am I allowed to answer this, or does he just keep on talking?
You
If you-
can answer it. Stop talking to him.
All right, thank you. Now, first of all, you need to understand that I did not give a positive argument. I gave a refutation, right? So, on your premise that that which is that which ought, I gave an incorrect. That even assuming your premise is true, you will be wrong, because even if that which is that which ought, even then, humans are not inherently selfish creatures, right? But that leaves the point that that was an even if argument. Even if argument. I have other arguments, and my other arguments are very clear. That
Okay.
since you think that happiness is the ultimate form of goodness, is pedophilia good? Now, can I ask a question?
No,
Since it
no,
was
no.
my
That
turn?
was past time.
What?
I was letting you finish your sentence, but that was like past time. So,
All right.
2 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna go straight down the flow here. First of all, he never actually refuted the argument that he doesn't understand logic. Like, I specifically made that statement word for word, and he did not reject it. Do not let him do that in the next speech, because I don't have another speech to respond to this. I don't have another cross-examination to respond to this. This is my last chance to speak. So if he did not respond to an argument yet, do not give him the privilege of doing that. I specifically said that reason cannot talk to you. It cannot tell you what to do. Reason is a faculty of the mind, and he is not arguing that. Instead, he's arguing that reason is an independent being that's telling us or positing arguments is his word. He's using reason like and followed by a verb as if it's taking action, as if he's personifying it. I would say that's pretty crazy. So he has no logical arguments at all. Like, I made that statement, he did not reject it. Don't let him do it in the last speech when I can't respond. Next, he cited Wikipedia to talk about Latin a priori. Obviously, Wikipedia is not a good source. Anyways, killing people is happiness for a murderer. Yeah, of course. They find killing people as being happy. And he talks about how this begs a subjective ethics. As long as it's in my favor, sure. Whatever is best for me is what I care about. Now he says, I cannot show that we do like these actions of saving other people for a selfish motivation. I gave a selfish motivation. I actually looked at his argument where people value those they know over the ones that they don't. And he even quoted another source in his last speech, and how that itself is proven to be selfish. Don't let him get rid of this argument, because he made this argument. If he tries to get rid of this argument in the next speech and say it's just a wash or a flop, then that means he admittedly gave an argument he didn't believe to be true. And if that's the case, then obviously he doesn't believe the rest of his arguments to be true, and we can't understand, we can't say that any of them would be true or that he actually believes them. So he has to keep this argument on the flow. And it's the most important one, because biologically is obviously how we're going to do everything. So again, I provide deeper warrants for his arguments that he failed to provide. Don't let him make any new arguments in the next speech. Thank you.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
2 minutes. Go.
All right. Firstly, I am allowed to make rebuttals in the news in my last speech, right? Here
Steven, can you clarify on that? Can he make rebuttals that I can't respond to?
I mean, that's for the judge to decide.
Or is it only if like he's responded to it before? Like, can he make a new argument in the absolute last speech?
You can go back to the thing.
You cannot make positive argument. You cannot make positive arguments, but you can make rebuttals. You are allowed to rebut your argument's position, your opponent's position in your last speech.
As the debate's evolved, yeah. I mean, it's something that the judge will decide. Just use discretion. I'm sure I'm sure he's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Can you not interrupt me again as you have done so many times, Timothy?
You've done that to me too. It's only fair.
All right.
You brought.
I think your time started. Are you talking yet?
No, no, I'm not starting time yet.
Whenever you say, Stephen.
All right, go.
All right, now understand this. The first part, he made a fundamental contradiction. So first he says that it is an abstract idea. And I actually responded to that in my first speech and in the previous hangout, where I said it's not an abstract idea, it's a faculty of the mind. And a faculty of the mind does posit to you things, right? So reason is a faculty of the mind which makes conclusions, and these conclusions are new statements to the mind, and these conclusions are posits from reason to your mind, right? So it is very stupid when someone comes up and says that reason is an abstract idea, and he actually changed his statement later on. Now he argues that pedophilia is moral, right? So let's remember what morality is, and I want to use Ayn Rand's own definition of morality, right? I don't want to bring up my own definition. I want to use Ayn Rand's own definition. So I'm going to quote that Ayn Rand's definition of morality is the code of conduct that should rule each person's life. All right. So the code or conduct, right? So the rules and regulations that one should apply to themselves, right? So that is also a form of law, right? Laws that one applies to themselves. So it would be pretty pointless to have laws which would allow you to commit pedophilia, which would allow you to commit child rape, which would allow you to commit forgery, stealing, murder. All of these things are warranted under Timothy's model. All of these things are warranted under his model, and yet his definition goes against this fundamental point, something I feel is a contradiction. Now, for my argument that of genetics, I need you to note that I give an even if argument, and for those of you who are in my first round, please recognize that I use this word specifically. Even if This is actually a technique of debating. You accept one of the premises and you say, well, even if that is true, can I complete my sentence?
Yes.
Even if that is true, it is still false. See, and other than that, I did give other arguments, and with that, I beg to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, guys, that wraps up our debate for tonight. Anyone who is in favor of my position, say aye in chat.
Everyone's in favor of your position because everyone, I think it's, yeah, Annie Bossy, I knew you would say it in the first place. I should just note that I begged, moderator, you're not allowed to vote. I begged.
Moderator
Timothy.
can vote. Why wouldn't he be allowed to vote? He's unbiased. That's 4 ayes. There's only 7 members of the audience, so that means I win the debate. Thank you all. Have a good night.